the Islamic view of original sin. Please don't mind my saying this. I'm saying this strictly from an academic standpoint. Judaism and Islam both do not accept the Christian view of original sin as having passed down the human race, biologically transmitted. From an Islamic standpoint, in Islam, there's no original sin. There's acknowledgement that Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden tree and they committed a sin. But the Islamic scripture goes on to say that Adam and Eve became remorseful. They had a conscience. And so they became remorseful and they asked forgiveness of God, and God forgave them. The slate was wiped clean, and Adam and Eve started their tenure on earth without any original sin. And since original sin is the foundation of the concept of redemption through Jesus Christ, if there's no original sin, then there's no need for that kind of redemption. That is the Islamic view of original sin. And from an Islamic standpoint, in fact, it makes sense to think of God as one who is a God of justice, gives Adam and Eve a command, don't do this, they do it. But instead of punishing them, he tempers his justice with mercy. He does not act as a God of vengeance. Moreover, Adam and Eve are first offenders. And usually we forgive first offenders after giving them a nice warning. Don't do it. Why did you do it? You must not do it again. Okay, I will not do it again. Chapter closed, case closed. So in Islam then, there's no original sin. And once again, this view results from the asyndetonic understanding of the divine attributes. God is just, but he is also merciful. So he administers or metes out justice mercifully, and that is what he did in the case of Adam and Eve. So this is how Islam looks at it. Incidentally, this is not part of our discussion, but incidentally, in Islam, it's Adam who is primarily culpable for eating of the forbidden tree, and not Eve. I sometimes picture Eve as a woman, in the Western movies, my man, right or wrong, I'll just go along with my man. So Eve ate of the forbidden fruit because Adam did that. There are indications in the Quran to support that view, but that is a different discussion. Let's briefly compare the Islamic view of God to the Jewish and Christian view. There are basic similarities. God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, created man and gave him a mandate to live a life in obedience to God. God, creator of the universe, and therefore the universe is a creation, and no phenomenon of nature therefore deserves to be worshipped in its own right, because nature itself worships God. God, the lawgiver, God who will call us to account for the way we have lived our life in obedience or disobedience to his injunctions. So all these ideas with which we are familiar and into which we need not go in detail are found in Judaism and Christianity. There are some differences. I'll point them out a little later. And the Islamic view is very, very similar. But I should say that the Islamic view is much closer to, all three are monotheistic religions, even though the interpretation of monotheism in Christianity is a bit different than the interpretation of monotheism in Judaism and Islam. But the Islamic view is very close to the Jewish view. Once again, the notion of the Trinity is not accepted in Islam, just as it is not in Judaism. In one respect, however, The Islamic view differs from both the Jewish and the Christian view, primarily the Jewish because it's in the Hebrew Bible. And that is in respect of the idea of evolution of the concept of monotheism. Scholars have pointed out that in the Hebrew Bible, the idea of the Godhead goes through an evolutionary process. And initially, the existence of many gods is acknowledged. Later on, the existence of gods for nations other than Israel is also acknowledged. And finally, the Hebrew Bible reaches the position that there is only one God. This evolution does not exist in the Quran. From the very beginning, there is one God, and he has these and these attributes. There is amplification of those attributes at different stages, but there's no such idea that there may be many gods, one God for the Arabs, one for the non-Arabs, and finally, oh no, all that is false, there's only one God. So this evolutionary notion does not exist in the Quran. Second, in Judaism, you might know that the name of God is not to be pronounced. El is a generic Proto-Semitic root, but the name of God in Judaism is YHWH, Yahweh or Yahweh. No one knows how it's to be pronounced. And in the Hebrew Bible, what they call Kare and Kathi, they write the word in one way, but they pronounce it differently. This happens in a number of cases. So the word Yahweh, or these four consonants, that's why it's known as the tetragrammaton, the four-letter word, YHWH. They are given the vocalization of the word Adonai, prince. So you read these four, but you pronounce Adonai. This word was to be pronounced correctly. It was done by the chief priest of Israel only once in a year when he entered the Holy of Holies, and there he pronounced the name, but it was not known to the common people. And so to this day, no one knows how to pronounce that name. In Islam, in the Quran, this is the name that occurs extremely frequently. In fact, many years ago, a copy of the Quran was printed, I think in Saudi Arabia, and the word Allah was printed in red throughout. And the claim was made that you could take a pin and drive it through the two covers of the Quran anywhere on the page, and it would hit the name Allah, because it is almost everywhere to be found, several times on any page. So this is the name that occurs, I think, has the greatest frequency in the Quran. So that's a minor but noticeable contrast between Judaism and Islam.